Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, Monday, November the 4th, 2:00 p.m. in Council Chambers. First item up is the adoption of the minutes. We're looking at for the adoption of some minutes. Committee of the Whole minutes from October the 21st and regular open minutes from October 21st. Any council input? Hearing none, they'll be adopted by consensus. No business arising. Looking at the adoption of the agenda, any late items coming forward?
Just the moving of that one item.
Okay, that's correct. We have an item here under business 4, Mr. Hartmann. We're going to move that into F, water matters, dealing with it with the water counselor here. So that will be a change and a motion to adopt as amended. Plant, roads, all in favor. We have an adopted agenda. Under correspondence, a letter there from Interior Health, Health Services in the South Okanagan, and we met with Interior Health at the UBCM, and the subject matter was using a government facility in the town of Osoyoos as a hospice, and looking at, it was with both Councillor Plant and myself and Mayor Hovanes from Oliver, and we were looking at expediting a hospice somewhere in either of the two communities. So we did have government buildings available here, and Oliver also was looking at some availability to see if we could get hospice services that are very, very badly needed in both communities, if we could get something initiated with the Interior Health Authority. You know, the answer was, of course, money. There's no money for it, and you know, we've heard that before. But I think we're just going to keep pursuing that. It's certainly a wonderful cause. There's a strong organization that people have joined up for, and they're really looking at getting this hospice service. Anyone that's ever had a family member or friend or any association with hospice services, what a wonderful facility. So we'll keep plugging away at that. And I guess under the as an agenda item, just looking for a motion to receive. I believe Councillor Ryan and Rhodes. Any discussion on that? All in favor? That will be received. Moving into bylaws, Osoyoos Board of Variance Bylaw number 129501, 2013.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Were you going to deal with the water matter?
Oh, after changing the agenda, I didn't change it. Well, I certainly stand corrected. We will slip in the water matter for Mr. Hartmann, and this is inclusion to the town of Osoyoos irrigation system. A report from Director of Operational Services, Mr. Doucette, please.
All righty. It's on or?
No, it's not.
I'm good now? I'm on lit up now? That's awesome. Thank you. So that you know, like Mr. Hartmann back in 2008 wanted to become part of the irrigation boundaries. At the time, he was looking to subdivide, and at that time there were some complications, I guess, if you want to call it that, with the twinning, and no decision was made at the time. Mr. Hartmann has been successfully in subdividing his property, and now he wishes to have 2 domestic services to this property, but to do that, he has to become part of our irrigation boundaries. The irrigation for his parcel would still remain his own from the lake. All he's looking for from us, it would be 2 domestic services to service the 2 lots that were subdivided. And at this point, when it comes to twinning, I don't believe it's in the near future. Even if it is, I'm sure all the properties that would be dealt with that would be dealt fairly and everything else. So basically, twinning it at this, I feel that it's not an issue at this point. So basically, all we're looking for, Mr. Hartmann is looking for council's approval on making him part of the irrigation district.
Okay. Council, any questions? Councillor Ryan.
Where is he? Is he in 8 or 9?
8. He's close to the... yeah, exactly. Right at number 8 almost, yes.
Okay.
And that cost would be at Mr. Hartmann's expense to where our main line is, or the road.
That's
road
exactly right.
away.
There's a big line right in front of that, on his property. He'd have to pay for the cost of the services, the capital cost charges, and also the meters, as per the previous reports that were in here. So that would be all at his responsibility to pay for, yes.
Okay. Resolution from council, Councilor Moreira, Laranjo.
I'll move that we accept them in
That-
the system.
Okay, thank you. And that seconder, Councilor McCordoff. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? He is into the system. Thanks, Mr. Doucette.
My pleasure.
I'll be back.
Under bylaws, the Osoyoos Board of Variance bylaw, community planner, approving officer, Mr. Shannon, please.
Good afternoon, Council. On February 4th, 2013, Council adopted the attached Osoyoos Board of Variance bylaw, number 1295, which established a board using RDOS Board of Variance members and RDOS's Board of Variance bylaw. It later came to the attention of staff that a minor clerical error was made in the bylaws citation and repeal section. Instead of stating the previous Osoyoos Board of Variance bylaw number and date, the RDOS's previous bylaws number 992 and date were carried over. Therefore, a correction must be made to the bylaw to reflect the correct town bylaw number, which is 864. Staff recommends that Council give first, second, and third readings to the attached Board of Variance Amendment Bylaw 1295-01 and to correct this clerical error.
Council, please. Councilor Rhodes. Okay,
I'll move the way it's worded. in
okay,
the
great. And
recommendation.
Councilor McCordoff. Any input from council? All in favor? That's first three readings and finally done. We've had a couple of kicks at this one. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Shannon. The next item up is a report on zoning for medical marijuana production facilities. Report from Director of Planning Development Services. Director Cunningham, please.
Thank you. The new federal marijuana medical purposes regulations for commercial operations have replaced the previous system of medical marijuana access regulations for individuals. Health Canada is currently accepting applications for commercial production and has already issued 2 licenses. The Agricultural Land Commission, ALC, have advised that they would consider such lawfully sanctioned commercial facilities as being consistent with the definition of farm use in the ALCA Act. Council needs to either regulate or prohibit such facilities under zoning so that their wishes can be respected by Health Canada. Other municipalities are currently looking at this issue, and their findings will help inform the choices we can make and how to implement them. In the interim, it is recommended that Council put some protective measures in place against the possibility of applications being made before we have our zoning in place. Attached is a client bulletin from Lidstone and Company recommending that Council, or any Council, can protect itself in the interim by adopting an enabling resolution for staff to start preparing a zoning amendment bylaw on commercial marijuana operations. This will allow us to delay approving applications for any related building permits and business licenses by invoking Section 299 of the Local Government Act. The provisions of Section 929, withholding of permits and licenses that conflict with bylaws in preparation, are as follows. A local government has the option of adopting a restrictive resolution to withhold a building permit for an interim period of 30 days if it considers the application conflicts with the bylaw under preparation, including zoning bylaws, and within that interim period may further withhold approval for an additional 60 days. However, no approval may be withheld if preparation of the bylaw in question has not begun at least 7 days before the restrictive resolution. Also, if the local government has not adopted the zoning bylaw within the allowed time period, the property owner is entitled to compensation for improper withholding of their building permit. If a restrictive resolution has been passed, a business license may also be withheld for up to 90 days. Thus, time is of the essence for Council to pass an enabling resolution directing staff to start preparing a zoning bylaw amendment for either regulating or prohibiting commercial marijuana production facilities, as council will select at a subsequent meeting. Options: 1, council passes the resolution, or 2, does nothing. 4, recommendations. Staff recommends that council, 1, adopt an enabling resolution today pursuant to section 929 of the Local Government Act, directing staff to start preparing an amendment to Town of Osoyoos zoning bylaw number 1085, 1998, respecting commercial marijuana operations. And 2, at the COW meeting on December 4th, 2013, consider a staff report on options for regulating or prohibiting commercial marijuana operations and select an option for proceeding forward with the zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you, Director Cunningham. Council, please. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move that we adopt a resolution today pursuant to Section 929 of the Local Government Act and direct staff to begin preparation of an amendment to our town bylaw, zoning bylaw number 1085, 1998, respecting commercial marijuana operations, and that we consider their report at our meeting on our COW meeting on December the 4th of this year, and decide at that time an option for proceeding forward.
Okay, Councillor Plant as seconder. Any further discussion on that? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving into the business, there's a council meeting report for Councillor Rhodes. This is our standard attending a function out of town. So I'd like that approved, please. Councillor McCordoff Plant. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the next one is a proposed changes to reserve policy. This reserve that we're talking about here would be First Nations reserves. There's a lot of changes that are coming forward through federal legislation. There's some recommendations out there. It came before council the first time, and it has quite a time frame on it. So it came before council the first time, and I was quite moved by some of the changes that we were looking at, and some of the suggestions that could happen. So we sent it away for a little bit more time. And Mr. Emanko, were you going to present this? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Council provided direction that the letter from the Mayor of Delta and the attached package addressing the issue of the proposed changes to Federal Reserve policy be reviewed by Council. This proposed policy change has potential impacts relating to the town of Osoyoos' economic sustainability, retention of land base, and control over planning and development of lands within municipal boundaries. This proposed policy change should concern local government structures whether or not they border on a First Nation. The new policy proposes many changes in content and process which need to concern local governments. The attached package from the Corporation of Delta and a newsletter from Lidstone and Company clearly identifies the clear concerns that local government, including the town of Osoyoos, should have in regard to this change in Federal Reserve policy. The 7 key local government concerns identified by the Corporation of Delta are all relevant to the town of Osoyoos and need to be considered in council future actions. The 7 key concerns include reasons for additions, and the big area of concern there would be that the new policy proposes that reserve lands can be added for economic development purposes. 2, location of reserve lands. Previously, reserve extensions to reserve had to be on coterminous boundaries. Now there's allowance for lands outside the First Nations traditional or treaty territory to be added as long as they're within the First Nations existing province. 3, land use. Certainly the additions to reserve being approved, local government loses their related bylaw and zoning enforcement that would be inside their town municipal boundaries. 4, local government consultation. The new policy doesn't allow for an extended period of time for local governments to be consulted and then respond within At one time it was 3 months, and now that time frame isn't there. No veto power. Both the provincial and local governments can't veto any changes to the reserve boundaries. 6, First Nations local government agreements. There's no dispute resolution policy identified. Everybody has to negotiate in good faith. And number 7, net tax laws. Certainly, when lands move out of local government boundaries, they have to negotiate adjustments for net taxes once land is transferred. And the draft policy indicates that there be no adjustments that are intended to provide for indefinite compensation. So once the land leaves, you may get a compensation, but it would not be based on probably on highest and best use now or sometimes in the future. So the implications for our community are that the economic and social sustainability of Osoyoos may be challenged by approval of the new federal policy on addition to reserves. The significant dates, there is a deadline to provide comment was extended to October 31st. Therefore, any contemplated action by council needs to be considered with a sense of urgency. The options identified for council include number 1, council directs the mayor to write a letter to the federal government with copies of the letter being sent to the MP, the MLA, the UBCM, and FCM, expressing concerns relating to the proposed changes in federal addition to reserve land policy, identifying the 7 issues identified in this report. 2, council addresses this issue with the MP during their future discussions. And number 3, council takes no action in this matter. And number 4, council requests additional information. And administration's recommendations include options number 1 and 2.
Thanks, Mr. Romanko. And I think I'd just like to, at this time, say that, we have this great relationship with the Osoyoos Indian Band. We've already gone through this. We've already, the Osoyoos Indian Band is part of the Haines Treaty Settlement. They did do addition to reserve. And they actually bought some land, and they did do an addition to reserve. One piece was contiguous, being on the same border, and another piece was not contiguous to the First Nations Osoyoos Indian Band lands. We went through that. We did the subdividing. We did road improvements, road movements. We have good partnerships there. However, when we look at what's being presented and what the federal government is looking at, it really changes the whole process. I thought the process that we were working under was very successful for both parties. However, this has got some real changes and some tax policy implications. So when we're making this objection, this is not an objection about the Osoyoos Indian Band. This is an objection about, or even a second look. I won't even say an objection. This is a second look at the federal policy that's coming forward. That's what we're addressing here, not our understanding and bargaining in good faith and sharing resources and fire departments and things like that with the Osoyoos Indian Band. This is the big picture covering all of Canada, and that's what's on the table. So, what are council's wishes on this, on the recommendation? Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion based on the wording in options 1 and 2 as recommended.
Thank you. And that seconder, Councillor Plant. Any council dialogue? Councillor Rhodes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I certainly echo all of your words, and one of the things that I've been really proud of on my years on council have been the relationship that we've had with the Osoyoos Indian Band. And, we've earned mutual respect and all of those other good things that go along with it, like transparency, and we've been able to work together as you described. But regrettably, that's not the case all across Canada. It's vastly different in other regions and other relationships, and I'd like to see this, put squarely in the category. There is a bigger picture here than what we enjoy in our community, and having said that, I think we have to be supportive of these kind of things by objecting to these changes and make our voice heard, even though it may not be a big voice. We're certainly targeting the correct people in the recommendation. And the only other thing that I would like to do is, would it maybe be beneficial for us to break out and actually personalize a letter to FCM and see if we can get any more mileage out of that as well? You know, we don't interact with FCM that often. Our profile is quite low, and it would be nice for them to hear from us on that. You know, being a member municipality, it would be good to perhaps maybe just personalize it rather than just copying them.
Okay. Great. Thank you, and thanks for that little bit of input. Director Cunningham?
Yeah, I've had some exposure to this policy. One of my last jobs in the federal government was to implement it.
I think we're going to need a microphone.
Okay. One of my last jobs in the federal government was to implement it in British Columbia, and also I was pulled into Ottawa to review the 400 applications that had been made by that time. We're talking about quite a departure from the policy as I know it, and we all treasure our good relationship with the UIB here locally, but it has to be appreciated that we're talking about potentially any band in BC can come into Osoyoos and purchase land here for economic development purposes. Because the other major change that's been made is that outside of special claims and treaties, special claims covered the Haynes situation, land acquisitions could only be made for social purposes, and that means for expanding your community and providing housing. Here we're talking about the possibility that any acquisition could be made for economic development purposes. This is one of the most draconian policies that I've seen come out of this particular department in the federal government for a long time, and I think every municipality, every local government should be very concerned about it.
Thanks, Director Cunningham. And you know, when you say that, there has been very little opposition that's come forward that we've seen. And you know, what Director Cunningham said was absolutely correct. I mean, bands in British Columbia could buy land and change the zoning on it. It doesn't even have applicable zoning. Comes off of our tax base. There's just a whole bunch of things that are not right, not fair, and when we're looking at this. So.
Well, I think that public perspectives could change overnight quite quickly if, for instance, the Musqueam band, which is a very, very rich band within the Vancouver metro area and going the whole way up to Squamish, suddenly bought a downtown block in the middle of Vancouver, said, we're going to control this for the purposes that we want, and we're not going to pay you any property taxes. I think that attitudes would change overnight very quickly.
I'm sure they would. Councilor McCordall, please.
I'll be a director.
Okay.
When I was looking at the 7 key concerns there, I'm just wondering if servicing agreements that are in place now need to be added, or is that already included in there? I meant for sewer, water, that type of thing, because it would be probably something different if it was not on our tax base, right?
Well, servicing agreements would still be able to approach us for servicing agreements, and actually I think we would be limited in terms of not allowing servicing agreements. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of these servicing agreements, we basically have to provide them if it's within our authorities. So, yeah, even though there would be a takeover of lands with no direct tax implications, we'd still potentially have to service them.
But there would be money coming.
Yes, there'd still be utility fees paid,
okay.
And they would still have to pay for the actual servicing.
I just thought it was in the middle of a residential area or something. It could be a little confusing.
And again, if there is a takeover of lands where there are existing services, how do you work that into the compensation?
Council, anything else from council? Hearing none, I better go back to what our options were. We were looking at options 1 and 2 was the motion here. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Item number business 3, the Y property. We have a lot of residents down there that this will be happy news for them. We've got a lot of wild bush in the old CPR turnaround otherwise known as the Y property. Director Doucette, please.
Yeah. I'll elaborate on the background. Again, thank you for mentioning that. I mentioned I went for a request for quotes, but the reason for that is because of the neighbors. One, the neighbors were sort of concerned about the invasions of all these unwanted species. And number two, also talking about our environmental area development project that's going to be in the area. So we try to mirror all this. So I was asked to come up with a request for quotes. Actually, the request was twofold. One was for the Y property alone, and the other was for the entire town to get an inventory of all that. But for the purpose of this report, it's basically just the Y property. So we received, unfortunately, we only received we received one business that applied. He is a registered arborist. That's what we wanted. And we had a couple of meetings in the area. And basically, what's going to happen is they would come in here and clean all the unwanted species, and also chip everything in the area so that nothing would leave, so they would add as a ground cover at the same time. The gentleman, like I say, Jeff, seems to be quite knowledgeable about the situation, and also there will be some type of control, not only this year, but also in the spring, which actually the spring is probably a better time to apply the control portion of it. So the cost of this quote includes that. Now, this wasn't budgeted in this year's budget, and Barry basically is responsible for the last part of the second paragraph about this project is unfunded project. Therefore, fund allocation has to come from another operational project or an identified source. It is recommended that funding be provided from the resort municipality allocation from the Spartan Drive Environmental Area Development Project. The rationale for using this source of funding relates to the overall implementation of the larger project. If the Spartan Drive Environmental Area Development was to proceed, this would be the first step in the process. So that's what this is all about. So as you can see on the implications, it's just going to, again, we know that this is a very environmentally friendly area, but we still have to clean up some of the trees that may not sort of belong there. So basically, there's two options. We go with the quote that was given to us, or we don't.
Thanks, Director Doucette. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like to make a motion based on for us to approve the quoted price from Penticton Tree Services for the cleanup of the Y property in the amount of $12,075. And I would also like, should we do the budget source as part of the?
We could.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind tagging that onto the end of it as well, if we could.
Okay, coming from resort municipality funding, with that money coming from resort municipality funding, that would be an addition to the. Councillor McCordoff, please.
I'll second it.
Oh, you were seconding, okay. Any other input, Councillor Rhodes?
I wanted to ask, one of the implications that's missing on here is the timeline, and I'm wondering if we could have you comment on that, specifically when the job is going to be done, or at least a timeline of.
I'm guessing by the end of this month for sure. They're okay. just waiting for my go ahead, our go ahead, I should say.
Okay.
Council, please. Councillor McCordoff.
Yes, thank you. In the report from the arborist, he does mention some of the trees that would be taken out and left, and one of them that he mentioned was the tree of heaven, and it says that it would classify it as a weed, is strong, drought resistant, so they would leave it. My concern is when I went down to the Haynes Point restoration, that was the one tree that they insisted, and they took it out. That was one of the first ones, because it tends to have shoots and it spreads very, very quickly. So I'm just wondering if, when you talked to him, whether you could question him on that, because that was definitely a problem down at Haynes Point.
You bet.
Thank you.
He's more than willing to work with us, and as we walked down there, you can imagine the neighbors came out and getting in like this one, that one, this one. So we'll have to be careful what we take out here. But like I say, that's why we sort of hired the professional to help us out on this one.
Okay. Anything else from council? Councilor Ryan?
Yes, so he does mention restorative plantings, but he is just bidding on removal.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because we did ask for what, again, like I say, we're looking at the future of this area and then wanted his recommendation on what he would, put in there to help us out, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Okay, anything else from council? All in favor? Opposed, carried. Now, there's a step 2 here that while we have you here, Mr. Doucette, and this is, I've been looking for quite a few years for an overall policy on noxious weed trees, noxious tree weeds, depending on how you look at them. And that tree of heaven, that certainly should not be a community tree in this town. The Siberian elm, how do we go about, when we have this individual here, I would like to see this move into policy. I know I should be probably doing this at a committee of the whole meeting, but I want to bring this up because I think it's that important, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are looking at the meeting. We have the press here, and we're on Channel 18. But I would like to see this really progress so that we can take this to the next step and have species that are really that we could cut down in the town. And that Siberian elm, when it gets those larva bugs on it and invades people's houses, that's a nasty tree that hopefully we're going to keep this, now that we're moving on it, we're going to keep this going forward and take some action. So your words of reassurance, Mr. Doucette.
Well, basically that would have been like the second stage of that project. And then, like I say, we can always put in the business plan, I guess, for next year and then look at it that way, possibly. Barry?
Well, the establishment of an urban forestry program included the policy.
Okay.
And initially, I think we had that slotted for 214 or 215, okay. And that was part of the planning department's responsibility to carry forth.
Okay.
So when we go through the business planning process, if you don't like where it's slotted, certainly the administration will take some further direction on that.
It's interesting as we look at the business plan, how many things we keep wanting to move forward. everything but the dollars.
Yeah, it's. I think we got a good handle on what we have to do. It's a matter of having all the resources to make it happen.
Great, thanks. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Business 4 we dealt with. Business 5, Arts Council, letter of understanding. Mr. Davis, Director Davis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. The Arts Council has funding for stage improvements at the Sonora Community Center and wanted to have a letter of understanding established before the project commenced. The Arts Council has $17,500 that they want to provide the town to make improvements to the Sonora Community Center, and in return they would like to use the Sonora Community Center for fundraising activities. The improvements will include side curtains, refinishing of the hardwood floor stage, and overhead lighting. Staff has presented a draft letter of understanding to the Arts Council, and they are in favor of the agreement. When the Arts Council uses the Sonora Community Center, staff will track the official costs as per our fees and services bylaw and deduct the expense from the $17,500 contribution until a zero balance is incurred. At that time, the letter of understanding will expire when that expires. The typical costs associated with the rental of the gymnasium and commercial kitchen as part of our fees and services bylaw are as follows. The non-commercial rental for 1 day, $302, with the commercial kitchen fee equals $417, which the tax is included. And the commercial rental for 1 day will be $719 with the tax included. The Arts Council has just signed a 5-year lease with the town that will expire in April of 2018. They would like to start using the Sonora Community Center in 2014 and every other year thereafter, as outlined in the draft letter of understanding. In terms of implications for the community, the fundraising initiatives that the Arts Council are looking at will provide added entertainment options for the community. The budget right now is set at $17,500, which is in our budget as a contribution from the Arts Council. And this is something that we should get on ASAP before year end. The options are for council to approve the letter of understanding as outlined and proceed to do the renovations to the stage at the Sonora Community Center, Option number 2, for council to approve this letter of understanding subject to including an expiration date. Or option number 3, for council not to approve this letter of understanding at this time. And administration or staff is recommending option number 1.
Thank you, Director Davies. Council, please. Councilor McCormick.
Yes, I would like to move option 1 for us to approve the letter of understanding.
And that's Senator Councilor Ryan, please. And discussion, please. Councilor McCormick.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Davis, for this report. I think it shows a very nice compromise to the system, and understandably, the Arts Council is happy with it, and I think that it's just a really nice way for us to deal with this. So, thank you.
Thank you. I guess I have a question, and when I keep seeing increased use of the Sonora Center, and I'm talking about the main gymnasium area there, how full is that getting, and what sort of impact are we taking out community groups or youth groups or anything like that? Or are people getting pinched by the use of that hall and building and center?
Yeah, most of the events like we had this past weekend happen when there's no other user groups in there.
Okay.
I know some other times we had major events or functions during the week, during the day, that would affect the user groups for sure. We've had very little of that in the last few years. Okay. Mostly, when it comes to Saturday or Sunday even, it hasn't been an issue at all.
Okay. And the staff is good at being quick change artists and moving people in and moving people out.
Yeah, we have no issues
and keeping
there.
the system going. Okay, that's good to hear that. That's always a question that sort of floats around a bit out there. Any questions from council on this? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That's great. And thank you very much to the Arts Council for the refurbished areas that we're going to get down there. It'll be quite nice to have that. A great addition to the Sonora Center. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Director Davies. Going into business, 6, the Cottonwood Park 3-phase adventure license to use. This would be, just to make it easier, this would be the stand-up paddling that took place at the eastern end of the Cottonwood Beach area. So corporate services, Ms. Van Vienem, please.
Thank you. Council awarded the use of a portion of Cottonwood Beach for human-powered water sports to 3-phased adventures incorporated in 2013. The license to use allowed for a further term at the discretion of council. 3-Phase Adventures has requested that they be awarded a license to use Cottonwood for a further term of 2 years. They feel that they are able to build their business more knowing they have a longer term. Their only request was that Cottonwood Beach be made off limits to other businesses who are dropping off and picking up non-motorized water sport equipment, as this created a problem for them in 2013. In order for council to grant the request not to allow any other business access to Cottonwood, another RFP would have to go out for the license to use the entire beach area. This is not recommended, as this would mean public use would be restricted as well. Therefore, it is being suggested that rather than increase the lease area in the license to use, that a buffer area be set to signify a clear area that other businesses cannot interfere with 3-phase business. And the wording being proposed in the new agreement would be that the grantors agree to provide a buffer area around the lease area as shown on Schedule B. This buffer area is set up solely to restrict other businesses from interfering with the lease area, and the grantee, being 3-phase, does not have any rights over this use of this area for the purposes set out in this lease, and the public will continue to have unencumbered access to the buffer area. The previous license to use also provided an option for use of either one of 2 proposed areas at Cottonwood. In order for a buffer area to be established, this option is being removed, and the lease area will be strictly on the east side of Cottonwood, with the west side option being eliminated. Council awarded the license to use to 3-Phase Adventures for term May 15th, 2013 to September 30th, 2013 at a rate of $2,600. For the purpose of a stand-up paddleboard operation. It is being proposed that a 2-year term at the same rate per year and under the same terms and conditions be considered by council. The only change to the terms is the option of use of 2 sites and the reference to the buffer area with a new schedule attached showing that buffer area. The license to use is attached to this report for council approval. If approved, the mandatory advertising of disposition of land will be placed in the Osoyoos Times. Under applications to the community, the recreation option for both residents and tourists, organizationally monitoring of the license, budget $2,600 revenue for a total of $5,200 over 2 years, sustainability, no permanent fixtures on the lands, making it usable for other activities in the future. The options being presented to council are: 1, that council approve the license to use to Cottonwood Park to Phase Adventures, Inc., and that the signatories for the town be authorized to sign, or that the license to use for Cottonwood Park to Phase Adventures, Inc. be returned back to staff for further changes, and staff recommend option 1.
Thank you, Director Van Vienen. Council, please. What are council's wishes? Councilor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the options that are being recommended by staff.
Okay. And a seconder on that? Councilor McCordoff, speaking to the motion.
Yes, thank you. I think that we were very excited about the coming of this group. They seem to have very, very strong credentials and expertise, and I think it, just as we have in the past with other groups, we have given a certain amount of exclusivity. I think this, by having a non-commercial buffer zone, we will in fact protect their area from intrusion. We've done that with food vendors and others, and I think it's really important. So I think you know, we've been pleased. The public, I think, has been pleased with having this service, and I'm very much in favor of us approving the license and giving them the additional two-year lease on that property.
Okay, thank you. Director, gee, I'm having a hard time with directors and councilors. That's twice Councilor McCordoff.
Thank you. I certainly agree with what Councilor Ryan said, and I think that that Phase Adventures have done a wonderful business this year. They have proven that that what they have is a fun activity, and you see paddleboards all over the lake now. Lots of people are taking up this hobby. So I think that it's great that they have been given this license for another 2 years, and I think that we'll see more and more of these on the lake. So I'm happy to see it happen.
Great, thank you. Councilor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for getting it right. I just wanted to ask staff, I know this is somewhat of a rhetorical question, but is the space that Phase has now and will have in the future clearly defined in a way that may avoid conflict in the future? And I think I missed the part about how far west that commercial free zone would go, and I think as you progress west along that beach, it bumps up against a private beach area owned by one of the motels along there. Is there an area in between there that might allow for some access by other commercial? Just only for clarity, and I think it would be valuable information.
Okay, yes, just the buffer area, there's the maps in your package. Clearly, what we've done is we've delineated. First, going back to your initial question, yes, their licensed area is clearly defined, and then the intent is to have the buffer zone from their operational area to the area that we have kind of the public boat access. So that will be the defined buffer area, and I was just talking with the Director of Corporate Services. I think in addition to if Council decides to approve this agreement, what we need is we need a motion from Council creating the non-commercial area, this buffer zone, because the agreement speaks to that, but Council hasn't, within this particular forum, established that particular buffer zone from the Phase license area to the I don't know how you would describe it, the walkway down to the end of the to the stairs type of
or the lake access.
Yeah, the lake access. Yes. Yeah. So I would ask that council consider another resolution to establish that buffer area.
Okay. So the one we have on there right now is, and I'll read it. That council approved the license to use for Cottonwood Park to Three Phase Adventures, Inc., and that the signatories for the town be authorized to sign. So that's going ahead with the 2-year agreement, period. Yeah. Okay. So any other comments on that component? Councillor Plant?
No, just that, just adding now to the motion to go forward with our buffer zone.
Okay, I was going to do that as a separate motion.
Sure.
In case we want to tweak it or move
okay,
it, change it, rather than attach it, because that'll probably stay for a longer period of time. So anything on the awarding of the contract to Three Phase, all in favor, opposed, they are successful. Now, Councillor Plant, the buffer zone extending from the lease area at the east end, from the leased area at the east end to the beach access area at the west end of the Cottonwood Strip Beach. Okay.
Excellent. I'll put that motion forward.
Okay. Great. And that seconder, Councillor Rhodes, on that, please. Any further discussion on that? I think we have it fairly well defined, an area, and it's on the map. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? That is also carried. Good to get through that one. Next item up is general accounts, paying our way, general Sun Bowl Arena and payroll accounts, general account in the amount of $239,552.83, Sun Bowl Arena in the amount of $6,502.48, and payroll accounts for information receipt in the amount of $137,688.79. Any comments, input on those figures and payments? Hearing none, they will be adopted by consensus. Here's the moment I've been waiting for 11 months. The building report for the month of October 2013. Total for the month, $1,748,000. There was new construction of 400, new construction of 430, new construction of 380, and new construction of $500,000, bringing this up to $1,748,000. So we've been waiting a long time. It's good to see it coming. Let's hoping that this is a portend of things to come in the future and that we can keep this rolling for a while. So I'll have a motion to receive, please. Rhodes, McCordoff, all in favor. We have received that information. And the next item would be the CAO report. Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Just a few of the activities that our administration has been involved in the last 2 weeks, and I'll start in the community services area, where it's reported that the fencing at the Splash Park has been started, and so nice to see that project moving along. Also, automatic doors to assist the handicapped are scheduled to be installed Friday at the Gyro Beach washrooms. So we're moving along in that project as well. Halloween Howl was scheduled Sonora from 6 to 8 on October 31st, and I guess it was quite the rousing success. So again, congratulations to the crew out at Sonora for sponsoring this great event. Staff applied for an emergent energy-saving rebate program at the Sun Bowl Arena through Fortis BC, and they'll be getting $29,000 to install energy-saving equipment. So that's a good bonus to our community. And also, TELUS is scheduling a movie night at the Sonora Center on November 8th and 9th to promote their fiber optic service. The corporate services has been reviewing our janitorial issues. Our janitorial contract has come to an end, so we're looking at some different options in that particular area. Unsightly properties, that seems to be an ongoing issue every report, but we continue to battle on. With our municipal ticketing, we've had 2 court dates pushed back to January. We've also dealt with 2 Freedom of Information requests, And we're in the process of doing a major audit, records management audit, and we're trying to improve our records management system here so that our corporate memory stays our corporate memory within our organization. So that's coming along very nicely. In the finance area, we've completed a federal government compulsory wage management survey, also processing the supplementary tax assessments, did some VATM open training, and processing federal and corporate grants and lieu claims. Public Works, the paving is underway over at Cottonwood Drive today. They've laid a lot of asphalt down already, and it's looking very nice. The Force Main project is going very well, and we're in the process of reviewing our budgets and trying to find some additional funds here to maybe take a look at doing some additional paving in that area. With the new pavement on 89th, it'd be nice to extend that. So we'll maybe have to bring that back to council here in the next while. Sidewalk and storm upgrades at Pioneer Walkway area have been now completed. Again, there'll be some traffic issues on Main Street at the bridge. They've started work on the bridge, the north pedestrian walkway. They're working there today, and so we ask that pedestrians be aware of that and stay to the south side of the bridge. And the reader board at the landfill will be installed next week. That's where people will be able to clearly identify what their weight is coming in and what their weight is going out. Not their weight, their total vehicle and load weights to determine that in fact the readings were right. So and operations is getting ready for winter, tackling their various jobs. And in terms of myself, the MMBC, that's our future recycling contract. That never seems to go away. We've got final contracts from them last week, and there's several things that we have to work with them on their wording, and it's quite disappointing actually that they're almost micromanaging contracts, telling us how to handle our staff and our level of staffing. So we'll be we're having a conference call on Wednesday with them, and another meeting regionally with the province on the issue on Thursday, and their deadline is November 31. So we're challenged to bring something back to council for the 18th. I've asked for an extension. I got a response on the weekend that they would not extend. So we'll see where that goes after the conference call this week. And again, we continue to do additional planning with the new fire hall. And that's my report for today.
Thanks, thanks, CAO Romanko. I find that whole MMBC, our solid waste collection system and operation, they're not going to get all the communities in BC to sign on by the end of the month. They're certainly being tough about it.
Well, part of the issue is that we've had discussions with them, and the contract came out as like a generic contract that didn't identify even some of the discussions that we've had. To give an example, we were told that we could continue to use plastic recycling bags, our blue clear bags. The contract comes out with the fact that we have to provide containers.
Really?
Yeah. So, I don't know where they're coming from, but we'll get more clarity on Wednesday. But this is and then things like our landfill as a depot, they're dictating to us in terms of what our disciplinary processes are going to be. Well, that's not the way. It's our landfill,
right?
So, they're being very directive, very
heavy-handed,
very handed.
Yeah. Wow. Any other questions of Mr. Romanko? That report would be received by consensus. Councillor reports, and the first one up is Councillor Plant.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to make mine short because I have no voice. I just wanted to say two things. Congratulations to a very successful harvest dinner dance that happened this weekend. Congratulations to everyone who put the program on and all the volunteers it took to get that to go. It was sold out. Room to dance were fantastic, and the dance floor was filled all night. All the silent auction and all the auction items. Thank you to all the companies that put out for that. The dollars again go to the Osoyoos Child Care Center, Royalty, the Splash Park, and we had some great grads there doing fantastic work and helping out. So there'll be some dollars going to that as well. And then finally, I just wanted to say congratulations and welcome to Karen Grieg. She is the new center manager for the Osoyoos Child Care Center. Karen comes to the center with years of experience in daycare and working with children. She has over 20 years of daycare experience, over 10 years daycare management experience, and a registered ECE. My daughter's in there, my 3-year-old, so we're very excited, and congratulations and welcome. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Councillor Plant. Councillor McCordoff, please.
Yes, thank you. So at the last time that I did my council report, I said that there would be a number of different events that are on in November and December. This is just a super busy time. So 2 of them that are on this weekend. Saturday, November the 9th. Yes, I think yes, you're quite right. November the 9th at Watermark. There from 10 until 4. It's called Water Market. It's a craft fair and market, and sounds like that'll be a fun event. And on Sunday, that would be the 10th, at the Elks Hall, the Royal Purple are putting on a craft fair from 9 until 3. At many of these events at this time of year, they ask for, there isn't a charge to get in, but they ask for a donation to the food bank. And this is a really good time of year, people to think about the food bank, and there's lots of people that you know, think about it and put aside donations, not only food items that can be stored, but also money at this time of year, because I know that the food bank has you know, when they don't have enough bread or meat or something, they need to go out and buy it. So as well as non-perishable items, they also need cash to provide for this. So keep that in the back of your mind as you're going to these things. The next thing is that the shoe boxes, I know we all think about it this time of year, Samaritan's Purse, Operation Christmas Child. The shoe boxes need to be filled and turned in locally November the 16th to the 20th. So I believe that I read in the paper last week that the boxes, you can use an ordinary shoe box, but they do have special ones. They can be picked up at CIBC and 2 of the churches. I think it's the church on that was the Elks Hall. The Baptist. The Baptist. It's the Baptist Church. Okay, the Baptist Church, the Christian Center, CIBC, and Sears. I think you can get them. So think about that. It also costs $7 per shoebox for processing. So they ask that you include that in there. And the last thing is that on Monday, November the 11th, we have Remembrance Day. It's at the Sonora Center, and it's just a time when we certainly remember all of the people that have given us our freedom over the last many years. So it's on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour. And if you are not able to join the service on Monday, many people will be there, but at your house, if you are not able to get out or you choose to stay at home, take a 2-minute silence on November the 11th and thank the people that we have our freedom. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McCordoff. Next report would be Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A short report today. I'd hoped to have quite an extensive report on the dry grad and some of the things that are going on with that, but understand that they have a little bit of difficulty with their printed material and some of the dates and times and that kind of thing. So I'll defer on that for a little while. One piece of information that I did get from them over the last few days is I think the grad is changing right till the end of June next year, which is kind of significant because previously it's been held much earlier than that, and they're kind of excited about carrying it. and making it a finale for the students that are actually graduating. And as everyone knows, every time we award a contract to somebody for work around the town, you'll always see a real disappointment in my mannerisms and the things I say about not being able to award a lot of these contracts to local businesses. But I get it and that kind of thing. But I did want to just mention and pick up on a portion of Mr. Romanko's report and congratulate Grizzly Excavating for a job really well done on Cottonwood. When you get involved and you interact with the people who are doing these things, there's always a good way to do it, and then there's a questionable way to do it. And they certainly have interacted with all of the residents that have been impacted along that street, and even a lot of them that have not been, just general traffic stopping by. And what I see there is a quality job by a quality business, people that have interacted with everybody involved in a very positive way, and I think coming in on budget and on time. So once again, congratulations to them on a job very, very well done.
Thanks for that report, Councillor Rhodes. And just of note, we did start putting time frames out on our quote requests a while back, and we were wondering whether it was going to affect some issues, and maybe people, they were sort of being like squirrels and getting jobs and putting them in the job jar because they knew that Osoyoos wasn't using any dates. But we've corrected that a bit, and I think we did lose a few bidders that were probably looking at that model. But it sure is nice to be able to put that out to tender and award that tender. And they managed to get that job done in a very, very short period of time. So there is some reward and good feedback on that. So thanks for that report. And last Councillor Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm happy to be back here around the council table. I missed the last meeting because I had to be at the hospital with my wife, who was having some knee surgery to remove hardware that she had put in about a year ago. So it went well, and she's doing well, and I've caught up, I think, on what council's been doing. In the month of October, I was able to meet with a consultant, communications consultant, who's working on developing a public awareness program about the unfairness of Fortis rates versus BC Hydro. He's not focusing simply on Fortis, but showing the disparity between the BC Hydro rates and the Fortis rates. And there are, I think they're working on behalf of a company, but they're also soliciting help and advice from municipalities and others. And one of the things, of course, is that BC Hydro is not subject to the same kind of rules as Fortis is. Fortis has to go to the Public Utilities Commission. BC Hydro doesn't. And BC Hydro is also a kind of an ATM for the provincial government. So things like that have made a difference in the rate structures. And so they're just trying to point out to people that there are differences and explore some of the reasons for this. I've also attended a number of Destination Osoyoos meetings, and one of the key ones was a special general meeting of the membership, because DO has changed its purposes, and it is now not only doing destination marketing or tourism marketing for the town of Osoyoos, but it is now being charged with economic development for the town of Osoyoos. And this is still in the works, and they are seeking a general manager for the organization. But this has meant a lot of discussions about the purposes and the structure and the funding and those kinds of things. So there will be more coming out on this, but it certainly has been a busy month and busy couple of months working on this changeover. I was also able to attend the public meeting that BC Corrections held here in Osoyoos, and to welcome the staff of 6 or 8 that attended. And it was a nicely attended meeting, about 3 dozen people there. And there was an extensive write-up in the newspaper about that. But I think it gave people a lot of answers to questions. One of the key ones was that they pointed out that one of the issues that's kind of under an undercurrent in the public is the Osoyoos Indian Band getting some preferential treatment? And they very clearly said no, they aren't. They're like everybody else. They have to bid on projects. If they want jobs there, they have to apply for them, and there are no pre-existing commitments to favor the band and its members. And certainly the Chamber of Commerce has a site now which can be used to sign up for individuals who are interested in providing services or selling services to the corrections people, or also to looking for jobs there. So that makes it again, a very easy way to find out more and to register. I was able to on behalf of council, to congratulate and to participate with the people at the paddle, what was it called officially? Paddle for the Planet. And it was held about the middle of October, and they were paddling for change. In other words, trying to not only change the world, but also to show through a personal commitment the change that they were going to make to the environment and to our planet. So it was a kind of a brisk fall day, but they were wearing their wetsuits, and they were all very brave and got out there on their paddle boards. I want to thank all those who attended the SOAP, the South Okanagan Amateur Players production of Twisted Tales, and we just finished up this past Saturday in Oliver, and I was part of that happily, and I thank all those who came. I hope you enjoyed it, and the organization is looking forward to performing in the new Venables Theater in Oliver when that opens up. So I will again be out of town. I've got sickness seems to be following me around, and so now I have a sister who's in hospital, and so I have to go visit her and see how she's doing. But I will be back for the next meeting, and I hope that the rest of council can handle things while I'm away.
Thanks for your report, Councillor Ryan, and best wishes to your sister. I actually had a very light period for a change. I was away a little bit, out of town, and with that end of the month, I get a little bit of free time that I'm certainly going to pay for this week with the first of the month, because I think I'm booked out for the next 4 days. So Council, Regional District, Okanagan Basin Water Board, and a couple of meetings here in Osoyoos. So that's my week coming, and I really don't have a report for the past period of time. So we're looking for a motion to adjourn from Councillor Ryan and McCordoff. All in favor? We are adjourned, and I'm looking out my little sliver of window there, and I'm seeing a great Okanagan sunny day, so let's go out and get some. Good. Bye, folks.
Councillor McCordoff,